We're going to have open phones in this hour for our guest. And he can talk about any issue, so the folks on hold, you can talk to him as well. He's Gerald Celente. We're really honored to have him with us. We wrote a story at prisonplanet.com last week titled Celente Predicts Revolution, Food Riots, Tax Rebellions by 2012. He goes on international television, national television, Fox, CNN, you name it. He is one of the, if not the most accurate, because I've been following him for more than a decade, people predicting trends. They call him a trend forecaster. I would call him a futurist, but just seeing where things are going. And he makes a lot of the similar predictions we make, but I tend to just read UN think tank documents, RAND Corporation, where they say what they're going to do. He said there will be a revolution in this country, and it's not going to come yet, but it's going to come down the line, and we're going to see a third party, and that's the catalyst for it. The takeover of Washington, D.C. in broad daylight by Wall Street in a bloodless coup. And then he goes into talking about basically riots and homelessness and complete breakdown of society. And so joining us for the next hour is Gerald Celente to talk about a host of issues and get where he thinks we're going in the future. And, of course, you can also link through and go to his website, trendsresearch.com. Gerald Celente, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Alex, thank you for having me.
You bet. We got 3 minutes before we break, but just lay out in the first 3 minutes a little bit about yourself and what trend research is.
Well, current events form future trends. So we look at the major social, economic, political, geopolitical, environmental, consumer. We look at over 300 different categories on a daily basis worldwide, looking for those major trends that are shaping the future. For example, the current event today that everyone should know about is that Citigroup announced they're firing 50,000 people. I mean, and they're not going to make those jobs up in the Circuit City or Starbucks. So we look at this data and we analyze it, but we do so as political atheists. Both of these parties, we have nothing to do with them. And so we look at events for what they are and not the way we want them to be. And that's what really stops a lot of people from seeing the future. The other thing is when you look at economic forecasts, political forecasts, they do it one-dimensionally. They don't look at all the other interlocking fields.
Yes.
So that's what we do differently than most others. The system that we have, we call globalnomic. It means including the entire world, from the word globus and nemine, to manage, because trends can be managed. You can see what's happening and then take the measures necessary to protect yourself or to profit from what the future may bring.
Absolutely. When we come back, I want to get into the fact that the NSA uses its snooping system not so much to even, quote, spy on the individual, but to see major trends and try to get ahead of it, to control it, and to give that info to select inter-group corporations. The government, the big corporations, they know what you and I know, Gerald, and what you're so good at. They just don't like advertising real systems to the public.
Well, yes and no, because we've worked with a number of the major corporations, and that's our business. And I have to tell you, there are corporations like Ford, for example. They came to visit us in the 90s, and we thought we were talking to dead people. And we said, why waste our time working with these people when we know that what we give them is not going to be implemented? So, we assume that they know, but from our experience, Alex, most of them are well behind the curve. Examples, look at the major corporations today and how they're suffering at so many different levels.
We're going to talk about that when we get back, and we're going to discuss the key, what you just said. People look at the world the way they want to see it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is delusion. That is a fraud. Don't you want to really know how the world works? Don't you really want to count instead of having your thoughts fed to you? Gerald Celente is our guest. We'll be right back after this quick break. Hello, friends. This is Alex Jones. I've told you for a long time it's important to be self-sufficient, and today that's more important than ever. We need to be independent, and food and water is the key. You'll never have to stand in a bread line if you have your own bread. You'll never have to go to the Superdome and beg for FEMA to take care of your family in any emergency if you simply prepare. Our elected representatives wanted a good old boy bailout for the special interest, so they ignored your screams not to do it. They turned off the telephones and email, They voted to print $850 billion at least out of thin air. This money now owns the American and European banks. The exploding inflation that is now guaranteed will slash your life savings to nothing and blast the cost of necessities, particularly food, beyond many Americans' reach. In pre-Nazi Germany's superinflation, the cost of a loaf of bread doubled every 2 days until it reached over 4 billion marks. Food prices are skyrocketing so fast, there seems as if there may be no end in sight. The private banks merging with our government are refusing to loan grocery stores enough money to restock their shelves. The stores have less food, but jack up prices to stay in business. Whatever happens in America, we need to be prepared and be ready. Everything is zeroing in on food. 1/3 of Americans have to choose between buying food and paying for other necessities. My friends, whatever it takes, get prepared, get self-sufficient, get food. For everybody out there listening, it's very important for you to understand that by having a supply of storable food, the government, the New World Order, has a lot less control over you. And so it's a mindset of self-sufficiency and preparedness. No one is going to take care of your family in the final equation but you. You know eFoodsDirect.com is still able to ship storable food that's safe from E. coli, salmonella, genetic alteration, or Chinese imports. And they do it at almost half the cost of last year's grocery prices. Call 1-800-409-5633. Or on the web, go to eFoodsDirect.com. Visit eFoodsDirect.com and look over the fine list of high-quality, freeze-dried, and dehydrated foods they have to offer. Watch the free videos, look at their online catalog, or give them a call at 1-800-409-5633. Again, 800-409-5633, or on the web at eFoodsDirect.com. Take action today. The first step is getting storable food.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
There's not a better trend forecaster than Gerald Celente. The man knows what he's talking about, CNBC. Gerald Celente has a knack for getting the zeitgeist right. USA Today, The Economist magazine wrote that he has a network of 25 experts whose range of specialties would rival many university faculties. When CNN wants to know about top trends, we ask Gerald Celente. It goes on and on. And Gerald, I want to get into how you integrate all these different sectors of the economy, the society, how you come up with your trends that have turned out to be so accurate. But before we do that, perhaps we should get the listeners who don't know who you are to learn a little bit about Gerald Celente, how you got into this particular field and became a leader in it, or the leader in it, and basically some of the predictions that you've made that have been so accurate, and where you see us going, fleshing out the discussions that you've had about basically complete breakdown of society and martial law type scenarios.
Well, the way I began my career, after graduate school, I managed the mayoral campaign for the fellow running for office in Yonkers, New York, and it was 1971. And from there, they sent me up to Albany. I did such a great job, and I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate, which, by the way, was the worst job I ever had. It's a disgusting spectacle to see grown men grovel, particularly from a kid that was grown up in the Bronx. And, you'd watch all these people. I'd be talking to a buddy, we'd be in the chambers, in the Senate chambers, and a senator would walk in. My buddy would leave me to go help the senator sit down, pull his chair out, So when my friend would come back, I'd say, "What's the matter? The guy can't sit down on his own. He needs some help." So that was I got to see the insides of government. From there, I went to St. John's University, and I taught probably one of the nation's first courses in American politics and campaign technology in 1972. From there, I went to Chicago, and I was a government affairs specialist, working for segments of the chemical industry and other parts of the industry, and between Washington and Chicago. As a matter of fact, I was in D.C. When the first energy crisis hit in 1973. Jimmy Carter later becomes president, and the Iranian conflict breaks out. And I had been following this thing for years, Alex. I knew how the CIA overthrew the democratically elected government of Iran and Mossadegh and on, and how the Savak, the secret police of the Shah, was only second to the SS. It was a brutal regime. When the revolution started to happen in Iran, I knew it was real, because I knew of the pent-up hatred that they had against this guy. Jimmy Carter goes to spend New Year's Eve with the Shah and his wife, he and Rosalind. And in those days when the president came back from overseas, it was a big deal. He walks up to the microphones after walking out of the helicopter on the White House lawn. And Jimmy Carter announced to the American people that the Shah was the island of stability in the Middle East. At that moment, I became a political atheist. I'd been around long enough. I knew the game. And then the second thing that hit me was, what will be the implications of what's going on? And I realized that gold and oil prices would increase. So I started to speculate in both those fields. And I was only a kid. I was in my early 30s, you know, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I did know enough that I knew that the American public was getting one story, and then there was a whole other story on the international scene.